All right. Featured story is our man, not our guy, but Charles Hoskinson. Mr. Free Speech, Mr. Open-minded. Basically, what happened was a while ago. You had HFid Hex, great, great Twitter feed, got 12,500 followers. Make sure you're following her at HVIID Hex. Yeah, follow her. She basically tagged Bitboy and tagged Charles and said, "Hey, we should have an interview with Bitboy, and we should have a collaboration of Richard Hart and Charles Hoskinson, and Bitboy should moderate it. It would be exciting. We have two mavericks in the crypto space, two big names, two very, very intelligent people, and two leaders of two communities, two of the most engaging communities in crypto. Why don't we have them come together, and talk about the future of crypto, the principles of crypto, what crypto's really about, things like that. Pretty much everything crypto and everything blockchain. Two people who have a great knowledge of blockchain technology and things like that. Why don't we have them come together, exchange ideas for the greater good, essentially. So what happened was Bitboy actually responded that he was down to do it, and he's going to reach out to Charles Hoskinson. And of course, Richard responded that he was interested because Richard would talk to anyone that has a following like that, and would be enjoyable to talk to. So that happened. It seemed very optimistic. It seemed like Charles was going to come. Even Bitboy confirmed that he was interested. They were just kind of working out the fine details, things like that, until 19 hours ago. Until only 19 hours ago. So HVID said update on Richard Hart and Charles interview. Thanks for the shout out. So can I play this 28-second clip?
Trying to organize a debate for Richard Hart and Charles right now. So we'll see. What's the girl's name on Twitter? Don't pull this up. Wait, let me. Yeah, this girl right here. This girl right here.
Got Bitboy plugged her.
It was her idea to try to put this together. So I've been in touch with the PR teams, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so that was going on. I guess it was getting very serious because Bitboy talked about it on the show yesterday. HFid Hex, got a plug on Bitboy. Shout out to HFid Hex. Shout out to Bitboy for trying to get this to happen. Charles responded, "What's the purpose of the interview?" That's like the question. Like, first of all, what's the purpose of the interview? Second, Richard has already repeatedly publicly insulted Cardano and me. I don't see any value in a debate, quote unquote, or conversation. Not such a nice response. So then Richard responded, "I raised 30 million for longevity research. I never insulted you. That I can remember. I never insulted you that I can remember. I like what you were trying to do. I like what I saw you trying to do in Washington. We agree on most things, I guess. So I think insulting, I think Charles was referring to, I believe, I actually didn't see this, but I heard Richard was calling Cardano vaporware because they haven't really done anything. Like, there's not much development on it, I guess, in comparison to Ethereum, which is true. So, and then there was another video I saw. Someone asked in one of Richard's streams, what do you think about Cardano or something? And Richard just repeatedly said, Cardano does not have any smart contracts on it. Cardano does not have any smart contracts on it. I wish I could play it. I don't want to get like a copyright strike or anything like that. But basically, he made fun of the fact that they didn't have any smart contracts and things like that. So I guess Charles is saying he was hurt. Yeah, Ben Armstrong responded, "I think this is a time when the biggest thought leaders in our space need to step up. Whatever people think about Hex, Richard Hart has consistently raised valid points about the dangers of centralization. I don't really think this is a debate per se, but a conversation. I actually think that you and Richard Hart agree," he's responding to Charles, "you and Richard Hart agree on more than you disagree. You are the two of the smartest and well-spoken people in crypto. I believe people would get massive value out of the conversation. We want to keep conversation around where we go from here in terms of exchanges and custody. So well said by our man Bitboy Crypto. Shout out to Bitboy Crypto. He's really been stepping up. I know a lot of people give him criticism. I'm not saying their criticism isn't justified. And I'm not saying he hasn't done anything wrong or anything bad, but he has been very, very benevolent to Hex. Him and Richard, he has really been good to Richard. When Richard came to the U.S., I think he took him out to a concert. He had him on his show, and he let him stand by in front of his microphone. He stepped to the side and let Richard really talk from his spot. So that's an example of the respect that Bitboy really shows to Richard Hart. So actually, I'm gonna give that a like. Yeah, give Bitboy's tweet a like. I think we have to be good to Bitboy when he's good to us. So, and it's very true, by the way. It's very true. Richard Hart consistently raised valid points about dangers of centralization, and it would be a conversation. It wouldn't be a debate talking about exchanges and custody. And Charles Hoskinson responds, "This is no convo. He threw mud. There is literally no reason to engage. Just completely disregarding everything that Bitboy said. Like, what about the need for decentralization, the dangers of centralization? People are talking about like the dangers of centralization with Ethereum, that the blocks are all ISO certified since they switched to proof of stake. That's something that Charles and Richard getting together, the two biggest communities, and having a conversation and raising awareness of that could actually lead to tangible results. Charles has been making connections. I remember he spoke at, I think it was the Canadian Parliament. I think he spoke at the U.S. government. I think he spoke in D.C. I think he met with regulators. He's on TV a lot. I mean, Charles really does have influence. So getting, good insight from Richard on how to approach the centralization issue, that would be very good. And if Charles is really serious about getting things done, who better to talk about getting things done than Richard Hart? He is Mr. Getting Things Done. So I think the fact that Charles reacted like this shows that in a lot of ways, I think it's a little bit narcissistic. Like, he really wants the spotlight. He wants to do it all by himself. Like, he wants to be the guy. Maybe he doesn't want Richard to be the guy. Maybe Richard will win over some of his fans. And I guess if not that, it just shows that he's a little bit fundamentally unserious because he's not willing to work with people because they weren't nice to him. I'm sure Richard would apologize. And who cares? Stupid thing. He made fun of him. Big deal. Big deal. And then Hex Gangbanger. This is interesting. Follow Hex G Banger at Hex G Banger. Actually quoted a tweet saying, he said nice things too, right? Richard Hart said, congrats, Cardano, #ADA, only on being the only other crypto in the green with Hex and Monero XMR in the top 25 on nomics.com. That's nice. Okay, we'll like that. We'll like this. And yeah, so I guess let's take a look at just one more comment. K4K said, would be interested in hearing your version of crypto the way you see it next to Richard's view. They may be more similar or wildly different. Either way, I think people would gather around to watch and learn. If you personally don't like him, then of course don't feel obligated. Okay, nice comment. And shout out to Corey Costa. I hope you're following at Corey Costa 123. And he had an interview with me. He was very, very good. He's a great interviewer. He's a very smart guy. He's a very good guy. And he might join us live because basically he is on the Around the Blockchain podcast, right? Twitter space, Around the Blockchain Twitter space. I asked him if he wanted to join me for my live stream, and he essentially said that he's doing Around the Blockchain. He'll see if he can get in. So I sent him the link. Hopefully he'll show up. But he might have an interview with Hoskinson. He calls him Hoskinson. I wonder if he'll show up. But basically, this is the take. This is the meat and potatoes of the Hoskinson debacle. It's very simple. Do you seriously believe that Charles Hoskinson is actually insulted with Richard Hart to the point where he doesn't want to sit down and have a conversation, like regardless of whether Richard apologizes or whether Richard was even even said bad things about him. Like, do you really think that he's that kind of person where he holds such a gripe that he would turn down, having a public forum with Richard Hart? I don't think so. I think that's just what he's saying. But this is really what's happening. Um, this is really what's happening. Charles already pretty much made it, right? I mean, he's got 900. He's 42,000 followers away from a million followers. He's gotten in on all these regulatory hearings in Congress and in parliaments in various countries. He's got hundreds of thousands, if not over a million, subscribers on YouTube. People really show up in his live stream. He's really built one of the most engaging communities, I think, pound for pound. They're right there with Hex. I think Hex is definitely more engaging per capita, but Cardano is a bigger community. They share a lot of common values and things like that. I'd say things like that. Really, Charles Hoskinson, he's there. He Richard, on the other hand, he's on the ascent. I mean, he is the insurgent, I guess. Like, he is making it. And inevitably, what happens if all these Cardano people, I mean, who has more to lose? Put it that way. If Charles Hoskinson does a forum with Richard, obviously all of his and it's on Bitboy's crypto show. All of his fans are going to show up. All of Charles's fans are gonna show up. That's going to be thousands and thousands of people that have integral roles in the Cardano community. And I'm saying they might like what Richard has to say, and they might go figure. Hey, I mean, it's competing projects to an extent, and it seems like Charles Hoskinson really got it wrong and Richard got it right. And what do I mean by that? Basically, Richard looked at Ethereum and he said, okay, Ethereum has some issues, but it works the best. How about let's fork it and we'll go from there. Being that it's a fork and it's the same code, people that could develop on Ethereum would be familiar enough to develop on pulsechain. You don't need a completely different wallet. It's you just need to switch the network. You switch the RPC URL in your MetaMask, and you're there. It's like Binance Smart Chain, those kinds of things. What did Charles do? Charles with Cardano he basically started from scratch, and he's like, we're going to do it this way. And he's been having a lot of trouble. People are having a lot of trouble developing. I know there was a stablecoin project that basically said we can't develop on Cardano. It's just too difficult. Whatever, it is what it is. So in terms of development, Charles has made it as a figure in the crypto community, but as his project in and of itself, I would not say it's fair to say that it made it. And Richard is creating his own blockchain now, which is essentially competing to an extent. And he really has right what Hoskinson had wrong, which is to use what works. And being that he's the insurgent, he's the smaller community, and he seemingly has a lot of the right ideas. That could turn a lot of people in Cardano away from Cardano and make them go to pulsechain and make them want Hex and things like that. And I guess Charles is Cardano seemingly. I mean, from what I know, I'm not an expert, so to speak, but it is a little bit of a promise coin. It is a little bit of a, we're not the biggest blockchain. We don't have the most development, but we're gonna get there. We have to make sure that everything's peer reviewed and everything is completely decentralized. And okay, so I mean, does that really separate you? Does that really separate you from all the other blockchains that say, we're not there yet, but we're gonna be there? So I think now with pulsechain in there, showing how it's done, showing that really what matters is the best way to create a new blockchain is to go off what's already working. I think that is really something that is it's the way to go, and it's not the way that Hoskinson's been doing it. So So I think he's seeing it as I have the bigger followers. Why should I risk my followers going over to Hex, Pulsechain, Pulsex, going over the Richard Hart ecosystem? I think also Richard Hart is somebody who he's one of the only founders that actually cares about price performance. And I think Hoskinson, deliberately says, I don't care about the price. It's bigger than that. But I mean, and whatever. I'm saying it's easy for somebody that's never made it to say that. Let's leave it at that. It's so easy for someone that's already made it and is already worth millions of dollars to really say that. So I mean, that's where I'd leave it at. But like for someone coming into the space and seeing that he doesn't put a focus onto price performance, and then those people in Cardano seeing that Richard does have a focus on price performance, they may be like, hey, we don't want this guy. Like, let's move over. And this has been happening with other people that Richard has really had forums with. So it is I think Hoskinson definitely feels a little bit threatened, and he's thinking to himself like, why should I meet with this guy? It could only go wrong. Everything's going right for me. It could only go wrong if I meet with him. So I think it a little bit exposes Charles as maybe not being as sincere, as in it for the greater good as he says he is. In the sense that, if you're really in it for the tech and you want what's best for crypto, why wouldn't you meet in a forum, and further in with somebody who is very thought provoking and very 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 concrete, very good at getting things done? Why wouldn't you meet with him to help form an approach to best promote the cryptocurrency industry, to best further crypto, to do good in this world? And he doesn't want to do it. And I think he doesn't want to do it because it's a little bit narcissistic, I guess. It's a little bit like he wants Cardano to win. Like he would be willing to, I think he said openly he would be willing to talk with Vitalik, and I'm sure Vitalik and him had some bad words for each other. But if you talk to Vitalik, that does give you an opportunity to get exposure to a bigger audience, because nobody in crypto really has a bigger audience than Vitalik Buterin. So I guess it's really just the way Charles views it is it's me against them, and I think he is threatened. I think also Pulsechain going live, that really furthers Cardano, a blockchain which is not happening yet, where there's not much activity. That does further them from the center of attention. And I think like another thing that like bothers me once we're on the topic of so I guess the summary is that essentially Charles doesn't care about people throwing insults. I think he's better than that. I think he's smarter than that. I don't think that that's really what matters here. What matters here is Charles does not want to give his audience exposure to Richard Hart because he feels threatened. He essentially is worried that that would cause people to leave Cardano, especially considering they're in a bear market. Nothing's ever happened on their chain, and go to Hex, Pulsechain, Pulsex, be more fans of Richard Hart.